unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
What would you do if, for some reason, you lost your ability to speak? Like, just out of the blue, you're just doing something. Maybe you're giving a speech. Maybe you're singing a song. Maybe you're reciting a poem. Maybe you're yelling at somebody. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what you're doing? Maybe you're playing golf. Nobody plays golf, do they? Nobody that listens to this plays golf. What if you just lost, though? All of a sudden you just couldn't speak. Or maybe let's say you could speak a little bit, but it was all goofy sounding, and you drooled when you spoke. How would that change your life? What would you do? Would you freak out? Let's say you can still write everything else, everything you can do just fine, but you just can't really speak anymore. How does that change your life? Huh? I've been thinking about that a lot for the past 2 days. Because, God, I sure do love singing. And look at me, I'm just yapping into a microphone, into a phone. Well, it is a phone. It's a regular sized phone. It's weird now that we do these things into our phones, but microphones are called phones. A microphone is called a microphone long before it was a phone. Weird, right? I don't know. But here I am yapping, communicating to somebody, nobody, everybody, to myself, speaking out loud, recording it. And today I was playing the piano and singing. What would I do if I couldn't speak anymore? Would it be terrible? Or maybe would I get some peace and quiet in my life? I don't know. Anyway, that's what happened to my mom. She's gardening, out in the backyard, doing some gardening. Mormon lady, 75. She was born the day after D-Day. I always know when it's her birthday. I always know what age she is because there's always some sort of celebration, and she thinks I'm super smart. She thinks I'm smarter than the rest of the kids because I always know what age she is. But it's just because she was born the day after D-Day. All that blood on the beach, and my mom gets popped out, and she was born blind. She got polio, curved spine, all kinds of crazy things. Nobody would ever know this about her, looking at her. She ended up playing basketball. Was pretty good at it on her high school team. But anyway, she's out in the garden on Wednesday. Gardening. She loves her garden. I was raised on that garden. And boy, it wasn't such a fun thing when I was a kid because we couldn't go do anything on Saturday until we got our weeding done. Gotta go weed the garden. I hated weeding the garden. Didn't like it at all. Interestingly, I kind of miss it now. Strange how that happens. But she's out there working away. 75-year-old woman who just had both hips replaced. Who had heart surgery a few years ago. She's got a weird leg condition. I mean, she's fucked up. My mom has got so many problems, yet her organs, as far as the doctors say, are like the organs of a 20-year-old because she is the closest thing to a hippie I've ever known without being a hippie. Totally organic food, eats from the garden, nothing inorganic. She was way ahead of the curve on that shit. Boy, if we ever got caught, you couldn't smuggle in. I mean, you could. That's exactly how, if you wanted cereal in my family, you had to smuggle it in. Literally. Because you'd get in trouble. It was worth its weight in gold amongst my other 9 siblings that lived in the house, including a senile grandmother. But yeah, Mom's out in the garden Wednesday, weeding. Her home teacher, she's a Mormon. Home teachers, Mormons, for you that don't know, have quite a strong community thing, you know. Everybody's got a home teacher, which is kind of like somebody assigned to be your earthly guardian angel for all intents and purposes. You know, they come over once a week, check on you. They're supposed to be looking after your well-being. Well, Dan, his name, he was over there picking berries for my mom, picking her blackberry bush. My mom goes in to take a break. She's been working all day. These are her words. She says she was stinky. Went down into her massage chair that takes care of her legs. And she felt her arm go numb. So she got up and went into the bathroom, looked at her face, and her right side of her face was droopy. And so she knew exactly what was happening. She says, these are her words, that my dead stepfather helped her up the stairs into the backyard where she waved down Dan. And Dan's kid noticed her and said, "Hey, Dad, Linda, she's trying to get your attention." So my mom was sitting there waving to him. He pulls her into the house, calls 911. 10 minutes later, they're in the ambulance, and then they go to the hospital. She's lost her ability to speak, you know. Totally went away for that first 24 hours. And then she got some of it back. Now it's like half charades, half mimes to figure out what she's saying. I did the alphabet with her for today, and sometimes it would come out pretty good, sometimes it wouldn't. All the time she sounds like a person who's had a stroke, you know. She doesn't sound like the old Linda. Now she's a new person with a new voice. And frustrating. Just so frustrating watching her trying to get out words. Like, she knows everything is going on around her, she's aware of. Like, everything, her perception of the world, nothing's been affected. Like, her cognitive skills, everything's there. So she knows exactly what everybody's saying. She just can't get the words out of her brain through the muscles in her mouth, you know? So she wants to communicate, and interestingly, her writing came back, so she can write with, her penmanship used to be at a 10, now it's at an 8, but it's still there, you know, so she can communicate clearly when she's writing, and all the thoughts are in her head, but she can't get them out. Really frustrating, right? It's frustrating to watch, but what does my mom do? She doesn't get frustrated and pissed off. She laughs her ass off. Like, when she can't say something, when she gets to W, like, she can barely say any of the letters, you know. It's like, A, B, C, D. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make fun, but it's kind of like that, you know. You've heard of a person with a stroke, right? And G is really hard. K is hard. T is hard. B, D. All the ones where the glottal passage stops. I don't think I'm using the glottal. What is that word? I don't know. But where the palate, the soft palate closes, are really hard for her. Because, and her left side of her face, or right side of her face is still a little bit numb, but her smile works and everything. But man, that not being able to speak is frustrating. I would go nuts, I think. I certainly don't think I would be laughing my ass off. My mom was laughing so hard today. Every time she got to W, she would say, like, bubble you or something weird that doesn't even sound like W. And what does she do? She laughs her ass off. Like, her answer to frustration is nearly hysterical laughter that's contagious, and anybody that's in the room at the time laughs too. She's had 1 million visitors from friends and Mormon friends and old neighbors, and people that lived behind us when I was a little kid came by, and they're old, and we talked about the old neighborhood and how half the old people are dead, and even some of the young people are dead. Boy, I'll tell you, conversations in hospitals. But yeah, so I'm trying to keep this a little more than just, hey, here's some news about my sick mom. Last week it was my sick dad. How long before it's sick of me? You know, I have to admit, I'm one of those people that I'm a dick. I'm a terrible person. Like, when I'm on Facebook and I see those posts of, rest in peace, my dad, or my mom's in the hospital, or send your prayers, I kind of blow right past them, you know? Because I'm a dick. I'm in denial. Not always. Sometimes I slow down. Depends on how well I know the person. But if it's just bad news of the variety that I'm delivering to you right now, you know, bum out news, I blow right past. But that's why I'm trying not to turn this into a bum out thing. I just think it's pretty crazy. Like, what would you do? And my mom, boy, she's going to have some real changes in her life. She runs this charity that's an actual charity, by the way, not the kind you have in San Francisco where you got everybody on the payroll and none of the money ever makes it through to the intended targets. My mom's charity is called Hearts Knit Together, and it's all 100% volunteer, and it's they make these kits for women in the battered shelters, you know, where they put together just bare necessities, but she does it all coordinated, like, makes them look pretty, everything matches. So it's like, you know, delivering a wonderful basket of goods. It's all thoughtfully prepared, you know. So she does that, and there's a bunch of old women that help her, and I've gone down to the center and put the kits together. It's a lot of fun, but it's a real charity. And because of the success of this charity, I don't know what that even means, but because it's a real charity, she's been on the news, and she does speaking engagements quite regularly. And there's not going to be any of that for the foreseeable future. I've got 2 other friends that had strokes when they were young. One recovered almost to 100%. She's still got a little bit of her arm, maybe. I don't know. I haven't checked in on her for a long time. Maybe she's recovered to 110%. Who knows? Not a real number, by the way. But my other friend, though, he never really regained his speech. He's in the same position as my mom is in today, you know, where he just can't quite get the words out. Yet all the other faculties are there, you know, laughs at the same jokes, enjoys the same music, you know, all that other stuff is there. But that ability to communicate vocally has kind of flown out the window. You know, and there's a real, if anybody's going to fight to get it back, she's just like right now adamant that she get into a speech therapy thing right away, and she wants to overdo it and do it every day, you know, because if anybody can get it back, it would be her. She's a very stubborn woman. And so, you know, if anybody stands a chance, if there is a way that you can rewire your brain, if you can will it back, or force it back, or rewire it back, or whatever you got to do, she'll probably find a way to do it. But, you know, even then, what's Kirk Douglas? Remember when Kirk Douglas had his stroke and he never kind of fully regained it? Do you know how people just start treating, I was talking to my mom about this today. She's not a person who would ever consider herself to be a victim of this type of thing. In fact, that's what she was saying. She said, I'm a victim, you know, with a B. But not even a B, it was something else. But I can tell, though, I can see a little bit of some fear in her eyes, as a totally understandable fear. Less than I would have, I think, but that fear that people start, you know, talking loudly to you, using a baby voice, talking to you like a child, or dismissing you, you know, and God, that's got to be so frustrating. If the lights are all on and you can hear everything they say, and your brain is still computing things the same way as it used to do, but you just can't communicate, that's some frustrating shit. I don't know how well I'd do with it. I mean, obviously what choice do you have? You just figure it out and you do it, right? You just buckle down and you go. I was thinking about this all night last night. I was thinking, well, okay, so I can't talk anymore. The podcast would be over, right? forget about all these things about posting songs that I haven't posted. I've got these hundreds of songs that I haven't posted. And I was thinking, oh shit, I really need to start sharing that music, because what if that happens to me? That could happen to me, happen to her, and then suddenly none of them get out, none of these songs, I thought, man, you got to use your voice while you got it, because you never know, and you don't. But I was thinking, well, I could certainly go back to photography, could go back to drawing pictures, painting. I've been wanting to do more painting, I don't know, would you increase your social media stuff if that's your, I've been making this whole, if you look at the back of the beginning of this podcast, the very first episode was spawned on from, it's called Texting at the Beach, and I was talking about how we just don't use our voices as much as we should, that we need to communicate using our voices, and how I use voicemail and the messaging systems. I just record messages for people. I don't even text them anymore, because text is bad, and you need the human voice. And there's a couple things about that only 50 episodes ago, which was about a month and a few days ago. There's a couple things that's still really, really true with that, and that is, speech is better than text, right? But I mentioned that maybe you don't even need to talk. Words are maybe the crudest elements of language. And over the past couple of days, I've kind of learned that with my mom, that just sitting in the room with that laughter, and you can see the facial expressions. And I guess I knew this with Kevin too. You can, body language, facial expressions, vibes, so much is conveyed just through a look, that words are whatever, fine, you got your words. Of course, now my mom's thinking probably, she's writing things down. When she can't get the words out, she'll write it down. And so thank goodness for text, right? Thank goodness for that. It sure beats not having anything. So that's kind of weird, right? I get all crazy about an idea, and then suddenly mom has a stroke and loses her ability to speak right when I'm heralding the human voice as being so wonderful. But yeah, but even still, like I said, you got to get in a room with people eventually. That's really the communication that matters. And I'm not being some absolutist on this, but there's no substitution for being in the room with somebody. If there is any real communicating that needs to be done, I mean like real communicating, human to human, you gotta be in the presence of that person, face to face. You gotta be smelling the same smells, feeling the same breezes, same temperature in the room. So much of I think what real communication comes down to is that, being in the same room. And that's an interesting thing. Like me and my two sisters were in a car today, driving around trying to find my mom the best local speech therapy place for the next couple of weeks after they discharge her from here. She'll go into rehab to try to get to capitalize on these first few weeks. They say that it's important to get right back up on the horse, so to speak. So yeah, just being with them, like all three of them. My brother was missing, but and you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Can you hear me out there? I'm talking. I didn't have a stroke yet. Anyway, that's about as much as I need to say on that. A lot of you are probably hoping that I do have a stroke. Well, maybe not. You wouldn't be listening. But a lot of people who don't listen to this probably wish I would have a stroke. I don't know. Anyway, get in the room. Get in the room with the people who are important to you. And, even the people that maybe... Get in the room with your family, if you can. If they're not terrible people, If they're not violent. If they're not intentionally harmful. And if they are, maybe you got a trick. Maybe you can crack open the door. Anyway, thanks for listening.